As we wrap up what's been a great season of catching up with the Kiwis, we thought we would take you inside the headquarters of MotorSport New Zealand and speak to the acting CEO, Elton Goonan, because this is someone I've had some dealings with over the years from his time at Hampton Downs and beyond, who is actually a competitor, someone who's embedded in the game, not just an administrator, but he's bringing a lot of those talents and skills to the table in his new role. It's been a challenging year, that's for sure. We're going to reflect on that and look ahead to 2021 as well. Elton, g'day.
Hey Rusty, how you going, mate?
It's nice to catch up with you. First of all, let's, for those that don't know you, kind of expand a little bit on your history, because you've spent time in Europe. You've been a competitor, as we said in the introduction as well, haven't you?
Yeah. I was kind of one of those ones. I got hooked very early on. Made the decision back in the mid-90s to do the OE to UK and try and get into it. And ended up staying there for 15 years. So I played in Formula Ford, did some stuff in Formula 3, bit of touring cars, a bit of GT, pretty much anything I could get my backside into, really.
Fantastic. And so when the time that you and I first got to deal with one another was at Hampton Downs, and the role that you had there was quite significant, working with Tony Quinn and the team on running that, what is a world-class operation there.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough, actually, sort of a couple of months after Tony took over the venue, had a call from the then Tony Roberts, who was managing it, and asked me whether I'd be interested in joining the team. Now, it's quite good because I'd actually met TQ back in 2007 when I did the Nürburgring 24 Hour. So I kind of knew what he was like, and I was pre-warned, I think, is the best way to describe it. And so I knew what Tony's expectations were. So I saw it as a great opportunity to actually build like, say, a world-class facility in New Zealand and actually kind of make a mark on the sport.
Collectively, all of those things must be great assets for the role that you're doing now. How are you enjoying that? And looking at the 2020 year, as challenging as it's been, there's actually been a lot of positives, Elton, hasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like I say, the experiences I've had over the years has been great. I've been able to, I can look at each of the challenges that we've got from many different sides of the fence. And kind of can understand what the guys out there are facing, whether it can be a competitor, club, a track, an organiser. So it's really stood me in good stead, I think. But yeah, definitely 2020 has been one of those ones that I wouldn't even say come out of left field. It was even further than left field, I think. And it has been a challenge, but I think as a sport we've done really well. The fact that we got ourselves up and running really early, coming out of COVID. We were seen within the sporting community, NSOs. We were actually considered one of the lucky ones. We had a good plan in place. We were able to control what was happening at our events. Our clubs were really, really keen to get things going. And so on top of that, the competitors were even more keen. And it's been testament to the competitors, particularly at club level. We've seen so many of our club level events, Club Sport Basic, advanced hill climbs, gymkhanas, stuff. Those events have been oversubscribed, and the clubs have actually had to sort of turn some people away.
I'm glad you've shone a light on this, because the Back in Motion program, I want to kind of also get your thoughts on how it's perhaps fared relative to other sports. But you did some great things along the way there. I mean, in the order of 200,000 of discounts. How prepared were we? Everyone was learning on the run because of COVID-19, but how prepped were we to get back in motion?
Kind of from our side, we started working on it sort of early April. We knew that we were going to need to have something in place. So we started working on it early April. And I think the biggest hurdle we had as a sport, and like everybody in terms of business over that period, is the goalpost kept changing. And I think 4 or 5 times we had the document literally ready to send, and then a new requirement came out by the government, or a new testing or a new restriction. So then it was almost taking 4 or 5 steps backwards to reset it. So it took a lot of work, and the team in the office here, we had a lot of volunteers from the commissions, the heads of departments, the rules committee. Those guys spent a lot of time, and we put them under a lot of pressure to get this turned around really quickly. And credit to them, they did it. They turned it around, and we came out with a good package.
Invariably, it's a learning curve for everybody in a leadership sense. Has there been a few things that you've either learned about yourself or learned about working with the team of people around you? What's been the big lesson learner in all this?
Definitely, it's coming from the corporate world, which I've kind of spent time with when I was at Hampton and previously, and coming into a membership model. It is a different way of thinking. Instead of having one bosses, you've kind of got sort of nearly 100 with all our member clubs. And not that you can please everybody, because you never can in any organisation or anything, but you've got to take a lot more things into consideration when you're working through rules and adjustments and even things like back in motion, how it's going to affect across the whole spectrum of our organisation, not just a small portion.
I knew your skill set would be very good in those moments. Let's break it down a little further if we can and look at, say, for example, the race side of things. New Zealand Grand Prix, TRS, looking ahead to 2021. In the way they have, everyone's used that word, Elton, pivot. The way that TRS has pivoted here, got some great names involved for the GP, and I think there'll be spin-offs from that. A lot of people are talking about it harking back to the great old days of the New Zealand Grand Prix, and the youngsters, the emerging stars in the sport will benefit from the involvement, the likes of Shane Van Gisbergen and Greg Murphy, won't they?
Yeah, definitely. It's going to give those kids a chance to benchmark themselves. I mean, we've seen the likes of Caleb Natoa, Josh Bethune just been launched as well. So it's going to give those kids a chance to really, really measure themselves against those known stars. And we've got Greg in there, Kenny, some of the older guys, so to speak. But then, like I say, you throw Shane in there as well, and we know every time Shane gets in the car, he gives it his all, and he seems to excel every time, whether it's on the real world or in the virtual world online. He seems to excel. So to be able to measure yourself against someone of Shane's caliber in exactly the same car, on exactly the same track, on exactly the same weekend, it's just going to be a great benchmark for these kids and help them move forward.
When you and I last caught up face-to-face, it was to do with rallying on the back of the City of Auckland Rally and the Repco Battle of Jacks Ridge, which was just tremendous. What about report card as far as rally is concerned? Although it had been quite some time for competitors and everyone was so delighted to get back behind the wheel, those events were dual events in this tough year, weren't they?
Yeah, rallies must be the one that initially looked like it was going to get hit the hardest. Obviously, we had Rally of Otago and Whangarei were due to be in sort of early April and early May and early April. They got postponed because of the COVID. That was a shame, but there was still hope that we could have the NZRC. Quite rightly, the NZRC organisers kind of made that call to pull the series, which in the current climate they had at the time, I think that was the best thing to do, and it's proved that. Then we had that kind of blow that the WRC wouldn't come here. Once again, COVID. So that really really was a kick in the guts for rallying. But what's really impressed me in terms of that section of our sport is that as soon as we got into that sort of late June, early July, and these clubs were organising rally sprints, and then we were getting full-blown rallies happening, and we've almost had as many rallies now in the 6 months since we got going after COVID than we do normally in a traditional year. So really rallying's picked themselves up by the scruff of the neck and really run with it, and they've engaged, and they've had so many competitors, and there's new ones coming out of the woodwork out as well. Guys that haven't been out in a car for years are coming out because they're seeing actually how much enjoyment it is. And really, for me, one of the differences between rallying and racing is you're actually challenging yourself. The only thing you're chasing against is what you are doing on the stage times. So it is a real challenge, and these guys are taking that challenge again and actually enjoying it, which is great.
And although we missed the WRC, as you've just detailed there a moment ago, we have sent, Elton, a very clear message about the quality of what we have to offer, a reminder of the great traditions that New Zealand has had over its time in the World Rally Championship that will, I hope, act as a great lure for them to return to this part of the world.
Yeah, definitely. It's the Rally of Auckland's really, really stamped those routes that they were going to use for WRC on the map. The drivers from that event from Rally of Auckland really loved it. Hayden's been a real great advocate. PJ, I would hate to think how many hours PJ and his team have put into organising the WRC stuff and then rolled that into Rally of Auckland. There's just heart and soul's gone into that. So the fact that we've been able to get that, and we were able to get that coverage on WRC as well out there into the bigger global world of rallying, it's really highlighted to those teams and drivers that we have some roads down here that really challenge them. And fingers crossed, maybe not next year, but in the next couple of years we could see it down here, and possibly even having a double header with Aussie as well. Making it actually worthwhile them coming down here. So that would be a great addition if we could get that to happen.
Very, very much so. A leg of the sport in this part of the world between those two countries would be tremendous. But still, beautiful pictures and unique New Zealand countryside to showcase for your own event, Elton. From a club sport point of view, why don't we touch on while we've got you, hill climb champs and cross cars, things like that?
Yeah, the hill climb champs have been one of those real staples of the sport over the years, and this year's been no exception. It's really shown the chance for these, once again, sort of club level drivers to show that they've been able to excel. Cross cars have come into it. It's been an initiative of the sport. Hayden Paddon's obviously bringing in one brand of cross cars, but I think there's 15 other brands across the country, across the world that people can buy. Hayden's bringing one brand in, but it's been great because there's been a real good uptake of those cars. I think Hayden's sold out of his next two shipments. But I know Hayden's also attended a couple of events, and once again, like we're talking about Shane in the Grand Prix, these guys have been able to match themselves against rallying's best and against Hayden, so it's really been good. But the hill climb champs have just gone great guns, and it's just showing that we've got a great depth of skill within our sport.
Most definitely. To the historic side of things now, because New Zealand has this wonderful, on a per capita basis, amount of terrific historic cars across all sorts of different disciplines on our shores here. What about the historic events? We've had some great ones, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of those happen across that summer season. It's unbelievable. I mean, we started November with the MG Classic, which I think we're just on 300 entries over that weekend. It was a massive grid and a massive weekend of driving. And then going into the summer, we've got that sort of that southern festival, which happens between sort of Scope at Ruapuna down to Levels down to Teretonga. Before that, we've got the historic Grand Prix at Taupo, Paul Fahey Classic later on in that first quarter. So there's just a massive plethora of cars out there, and like I say, New Zealand has got some of the nicest and most recognised collection of historic cars that run on track. And the good thing is that these guys actually don't treat them like museum pieces. They actually treat them like racing cars. They get out there and they get their elbows out and they get stuck in and they have a great day's racing. But really the big thing at the end of it is they actually sit there around the tent, tyres off, feet up, and actually have a beer. And they enjoy it, but they've just got these classic bits of machinery that, me and you, we're of that age where we recognise half these cars from when we were growing up, and actually seeing these cars back out there and running, it's just awesome.
Exactly what they're meant to be doing. And it's nice that they have that camaraderie at the end of it. That's what it's all about, Elton. As we move towards the end of this, let's look ahead to 2021. Lots of Kiwi businesses talk about doing well at the moment. There's lots of energy in the normal sort of marketplace. What about from a Motorsport New Zealand standpoint? What's in store for us for members? Even looking ahead, if you want to AGM and awards, training, new website, things like that.
Yeah, I mean we've got lots of initiatives on the way. I mean, one of the biggest focuses we've had over the last 12 months is trying to be more open as an organisation. There was a feeling that we were quite a closed shop, which wasn't the case, but there was still that perception. So we've really taken a mantle on that and really trying to up that and make sure our comms are there, making sure people that know that they can actually contact us, talk to us. I've made quite an effort over the last 6 months to try and go to as many events as I can. I think I'm up to about 20 events in the last 6 months. So, we're there, we're approachable. If you've got a problem, talk to us. We're not this big bad wolf. We want to help, and at the end of the day, we're here to help people get out there and compete. So that's really a big thing for us. Making the sport more accessible definitely is a main thing. We know, like every business, the best way to communicate to a lot of people nowadays is via our website. So there's constant evolutions of that going to be happening. We're working on developments with the MotorSport online system. That's the key part. We want to try and get people using that more to enter their events and manage their cars and so forth. So then we can move that stuff online. Once we move that online, then we help making it easier for the clubs to organise. And that also kind of works towards that mantle that as a sport we need to be looking to be greener and more sustainably noticed around the world. And so if we can reduce that paper input or that paper usage, should I say, then that's really going to be a key start for helping us start ticking those boxes. And once we get those boxes ticked, we've done an economic impact study as well, which will come out towards the back end of January. It's going to highlight actually how much as a sport we put into the New Zealand economy. It's going to give us a chance, once again, go and talk to government, whether it be local or central, and actually just show what we do bring to the whole of New Zealand. And we're not just this bunch of guys that run around in circles and make lots of noise and burn up tyres on the gravel stages or on the racetracks. We do a lot for the community.
And our officials do a wonderful job for us in all sorts of events, and training and ongoing training is a part of some of the 2021 plans too, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we made a decision at the beginning of the year to actually take on a full-time trainer. The board recognised back in 19 that training is really a key element that hasn't been neglected, but it definitely hasn't been given the dues that it should be. So we took on a full-time trainer, Bruce Wilson, he's the father of Bruce Wilson, who is Chris Amon's mechanic, or was Chris Amon's mechanic. Wow. So a lot of heritage there straight away. So Bruce has come on board, and he's really focusing on making the training modern, bringing it online, making it easy, making it accessible. So we're moving away from those old methods of having to sit in a classroom and listen to somebody for 6 or 7 hours, actually breaking it up and actually making it engaging, and therefore getting a better cut through, making people interested in it, and therefore the volunteers themselves, they actually feel more and more part of it, and hopefully get some life skills out of it as well.
Most definitely. Just while we're on this thread, one final part, and that is kind of recognition or awards for the great things people have done in what has been a very challenging year. It could be quite understandable to not sort of press ahead with that side of the business. But I note today on LinkedIn, for example, that Craig Lord, who is a colleague, and I've worked with him in commentary and things like that, has been recognised for what he's done in a clever public relations sense for the Central Muscle Cars. So you are keeping going with that sort of recognition too.
Yeah. Obviously, the traditional awards dinner was supposed to be the end of May, which we're all sitting with our feet down, sort of going stir crazy in our lounge at that stage. But we definitely needed to continue to recognise the champions and those people in the sport that really put the time in to move it forward. So over the last 6 months, the sporting guys, I've been going out and presenting those sporting awards directly to the winners on event. And then, the media stuff, the volunteers, all that sort of stuff, we've been working through those as well to try and make sure we keep recognising those people, because, without those people doing what they do, we don't get that coverage, we don't get that support, and we don't get those events happening. So it's definitely something that we've wanted to do, but we are, once again, touch wood, COVID stays away. We're going to have our traditional awards evening in the end of May down in Christchurch. And we'll be going back to hopefully what is some sort of normality around that.
We hope so. Fingers crossed. We look forward to a return. I love those nights. Righto, final thoughts from you on the year that's been, and perhaps looking ahead. I know you'd quite like to do a Christmas message before we sign off.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, it's first and foremost, it's a real big thank you to the volunteers. As a competitor, as an administrator, we know that. I know personally that, the events that I go to, the events that we run, they don't happen without the volunteers, whether that's the lady in documentation, whether it's the guy in race control, whether it's the man sitting on the marshal post with a fire extinguisher, it doesn't matter. They're all key part of it. So really a big thank you to them. from myself and from the sport. To everybody else out there, have a Merry Christmas, stay safe on the roads. We've got a number of events in January, so we want to see everybody getting on track onto the stages, into the gymkhanas, and actually having a great summer and carrying on through into 2021. And hopefully it's going to be a damn sight better than what we've had in 2020.
Yeah, we hope so. Well done to you and to all of the team there at MotorSport New Zealand headquarters. We wish you a safe and Merry Christmas, and Elton, all the very best for 2021.
Cheers, Rusty, and hope you have a good Christmas too, mate.
Look forward to seeing you at the track or at rally events in 2021. He's been a busy man, but as I hope you've gathered during the course of this conversation, not just an administrator, someone who's properly passionate about the sport as well. That is the acting CEO, Elton Goonan. And that wraps up our series of catching up with the Kiwis. But we have lots more great content for you here on the Motorsport New Zealand YouTube channel and social media platforms. And of course, the place to stay right up to date with the latest news as it happens is the official website, motorsport.org.nz. Bye for now.